All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will do roll call because I think we have some folks online. So yeah, I can see we do. All right. So we will do a roll call.
All righty. Wendy.
Here.
Sorry, I should have said, as we're doing roll call, please say here so that everyone can hear each other. I apologize. I kind of sprung it on you there. Kristen.
Here.
David G.
Here.
Annie.
Here.
Tyler.
Here.
Got him. Perfect. Christine.
Here.
Leslie.
Here.
Patricia.
Here.
Oh, she's on a different side today. Rebecca Lambert.
Here.
Sean.
Here.
Brian.
Here.
Kelty.
Here.
Yep, got her. And David T. is not here at this time.
I made it.
Oh, you made it, great. I didn't even step right in on me. Holy smokes.
Just barely.
Abigail.
Here.
And Wyatt, I'm assuming is not online, he's probably not here today.
Just
Right.
making sure that you're paying attention.
That's right. So all votes, because we do have people online, all votes will be done by roll call, just so everyone is aware.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have the student representative reports.
So it's Zach, Lucy, and Audrey.
So we have Zach, Lucy, and Audrey. Zach.
Moose Island is finishing up our unit on learning and the brain. We have learned about the nervous system and how to manage stress. We have explored the possible problems with AI with research projects about AI bias. In Reader's Workshop, we are finishing our dystopian books. Each student has read 2 dystopian books, and we will be comparing and contrasting them with the dystopian movies. Next trimester, our theme is hobbies, sports, and games. We will be looking at probability and statistics, chemistry and physics, and social studies through the lens of our theme. In math classes, we are ahead of where we were at this time last year. In Reader's Workshop, we will also be rotating through 3 mini courses about vocabulary, poetry, and choice option. Some of us will be creating a podcast series. Others will be exploring current events. On Tobago, they have been working on information writing and students how to write. They took a task they knew how to do and wrote up instructions. The students read their instructions as a staff person acted it out. This helped the students see if their writing was clear, had all the steps they needed, and easy to follow. It was extremely funny to watch the staff act out their tasks. In wellness, our student Sources of Strength team did a You Belong campaign. They invited students across the middle school to share ways that they help students feel like they belong at MTMS. The photos of the students and their ideas are located on 2 bulletin boards in the school. Student input including kindness, empathy, cooperation, humor, inclusiveness, and being friendly, confidence, being welcome. The Sources of Strength team advisors are Amy Jones and Gwen Moeller. 8th grade students are completing 9th grade course registrations with their advisors. With help from the school counselor, we'll be arranging class shadows in March at the high school for 8th graders, in conjunction with the high school counselors. Aspiration Week, March 11th and March 15th. Aspirations Week is designed to raise awareness about post-secondary options in the middle school. Activities including matching interests to careers, learning about positive workplace behaviors, exploring post-secondary options, military, college, etc., and learning to use the Choices 360's online career exploration website. April 5th is a Visey Day Out by grade level. 6th grade is going to the Alphonse Center in Waterville. 7th grade will be going to get pledges for the rail trail in Gardiner. And 8th grade will go to the Central Maine Community College. Since returning from Christmas vacation on January 2nd, there have been over 400 documented nurse visits here at the middle school. As it has been reported recently, this number does not always reflect those students that stop by at wellness for snacks or to simply say hello. This spring, nursing will begin preparing letters to be mailed out informing parents of their students will need to start the 24-25 school year. Nurses will also be entering any sports physicals received into Power School for spring sports. For music, the District Instrumental Festival will be on April 4th, transitioning fifth graders celebrating a day of music with all elementary school band rehearsals and performances by the middle school and high school chamber choir, jazz band, and chorus. District 3 Honors Music Festival on April 5th and 6th at Mount Ararat. There will be a concert on April 6th at 4 o'clock. Tickets are $5. And the MCMS Annual Arts Night on April 28th from 2 to 3. This will feature works of art, live performances, a 50-50, and a gift basket raffle. Middle school play is 15 Reasons Not to Be in a Play on March 22nd and 23rd, directed by Hilary Koch. Spring concert is Tuesday, May 28th at the middle school gym. The performances will be spectacular. Funtown is June 1st. Acadia's core classes, they have been looking about change, conflict of the 20th century. They are deep into World War II and society changes during that time. They have looked at prohibition of women's suffrage, Jim Crow, and the Great Depression, and now how the war changes the workplace for women.
On Team Royal River, they are about to switch trimesters. Their new classes are How Civilizations End, It's the End of the World as We Know It, and Space Invaders. Despite these silly names, these are real academic classes. How Civilizations End is focused on the rise and fall of ancient civilizations focused on continuity and change through history. Space Invaders will focus on the next generation science standards concerned with Earth and space. Finally, It's the End of the World will look at current events, including growing population, climate change, nuclear proliferation, and water scarcity. Additionally, Royal will be focused on argument, reading, and writing. The content for this will be the pros and cons of artificial intelligence. Royal teachers are working on acquiring transportation for 2 field trips as well. Team Moxie Falls is currently finishing up trimester 2, which is about the amusement parks. Students are finishing end of semester projects such as 5 themes of geography, a miniature Rube Goldberg machine, and designing their own amusement parks. In Spanish, they are learning about how March is the month of the woman. Year-long Spanish classes will be reading short biographies in Spanish about influential women from around the world. Students will complete pop-up grammar activities from the Spanish texts. Students will also use readings and biographical videos to model writing and speaking activities. Rotation and year-long Spanish students continue to engage in the worldwide Spanish language music competition La Tour de Marzo. Lyrics training games based on the competition will help students naturally acquire the language in fun ways. In art students are finishing up the watercolor unit with sunset silhouette paintings and are now creating concentric geometric paintings. Their ceramic mugs are going on display cases. They will be starting their still life drawing next unit. Ms. Lord and the Student Council recently organized the Winter Carnival where students attended a sled race, assembly, and plate games. Recently, the health classes wrapped up their relationship escape room and are starting a unit on drug prevention. At the end of the month, 2 presenters coming from Maine Health Coalition to present on vaping and alcohol. On Katahdin team in math with Ms. Pelletier, 8th grade students are currently performing the Barbie Bungee Jumping Lab, where they analyze data drop, graph data, create a line of best fit, and create an equation for a bungee drop. 7th grade students used Play-Doh and dental floss to create 3D shapes and slice them in different ways to see what 2-dimension faces result. In 6th grade math, they have begun work with the GCF and LCM to identify common relationships with number pairs. In STEM, Katahdin students have all worked across 2 Sesame Street characters of their choice, identifying their genotypes, phenotypes, and the crossings which occur. They have also learned about X-linked inheritance, reading pedigrees and analyzing their own team's trait data. In ELA, they are working on completing their argumentative essays. Students have chosen some interesting topics to research, such as should plastic water bottles be banned, and should recycling be mandatory. In the genre studies class, they are reading the science fiction book called Marco's Millions out loud and practicing their literature circle roles. In Life Planning 101, students worked on an activity where they had to prepare a slideshow that showed their dream occupations to share with the class. The following week, students picked a new occupation randomly. They had to find average salaries, both for Maine and nationally, specific job opportunities and requirements, and discuss the pros and cons of each. In Liberty and Justice for All, they analyzed and discussed the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and why they were important.
Great. Thank you both. A lot of great information, a lot happening. Any questions? Brian, go ahead.
I couldn't help it when you said that you guys had instructions and your teachers had to follow them. And I was just curious if any videos existed of that, because I think the school board here would really like to see those.
I don't know.
No? Yeah. That's probably a good idea. Okay, sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, it does. A lot of great things. A lot of great things happening. Any other questions? Thank you both for coming. You can stay if you want and listen to all the exciting stuff happening, or you can go do homework. Thank you. All right. Okay. Abigail, are you presenting? Okay. Oh,
you've got somebody.
all right. Would you like to introduce yourself? Because I don't have your name. Sorry.
This is tall. Hello, I'm Arlie. I'm a sophomore at Cook.
Welcome.
Yeah. Let's see. On Wednesday the 28th, probably last month, the junior class had a fundraiser for prom at the Weather Vane. Winter sports have finished up, and alpine skiing at Class B States Championship, boys finished 3rd and girls finished 5th. Nordic skiing, girls won the championship by 3 points, and boys got 2nd place behind Orno. Tonight, Cook math team had a meet, and we placed 2nd with 175 points, 1 behind Erskine. There is unified basketball on Monday and Wednesday. And tickets for the spring play, Just Another High School Play, went out on Tuesday. Show dates are March 28th, 29th, and 30th, with an open dress rehearsal on Wednesday the 27th. Winter Carnival is also happening next week. This year it is during school hours during tag time. Basketball and Frazzleham are 2 such events. The only part of Winter Carnival that is after school this year will be hallway decorating. And that's all I have, which isn't much, but.
That's great. We'll take it. Yeah, we'll take it. Thank you. Any questions? Abigail.
Just add some fun little things. Senate also hosted Neon Night this last month, which is really great. We had a really great outcome. And NHS is hosting a KBAC Humane Society fundraising drive to donate to them. And we're going to be NHS is also doing our classic yearly annual Penny Wars shortly. It's all Winter Carnival this month though. So.
Yeah. Not a lot of snow for Winter Carnival, so it's kind of like a spring carnival. All right, anything else? All right, thank you so much for coming. All right, we will move along. Citizens' comments, not budget related. Anybody online, Diane? Raise your hand or let Diane. We're good? Okay, thank you. We will move along. Any additions, adjustments to the agenda by the board or superintendent?
Yeah, I have 2 adjustments. In your packet on page 22, the donations list, please just put a line through, sorry, I'm gonna have to look at it. was just looking at it, but I want to make sure. The Hassenfuss Family Dental LLC, $5,000, just put a line through that. We will be bringing that forward next meeting, and we just didn't have everything nailed down there as far as that goes. So we'll bring it through next month. And that kind of goes along with 7D on your agenda, the acceptance of the golf cart bid. Again, we just have to nail down some final details. We rushed to try to get it on. We didn't have everything nailed down, so we want to make sure everything's in place. So we'll just, again, cross it off and bring it back on March 20th. Those are my adjustments.
Anything else? All right, seeing nothing, we will move along. Reports.
So I do have a celebration. I'd like to invite up Michelle Hood and Michelle LaForge. They'd like to share something.
And my friend Emmett.
And Emmett. And, oh, excellent, Emmett's here.
We can move this down so that he can tell you about it too. Good evening. Marina Cook Community High School and Mount Vernon Elementary are collaborating on a new educational initiative. Mount Vernon Elementary has partnered with the high school to introduce fourth graders to the high school environment, fostering early aspirations and providing mentorship opportunities for our students. Once a month, the fourth grade class joins high schoolers for a class period, engaging in activities that range from shared reading sessions in the sophomore English class to future explorations of gym and music programs. This interaction not only serves as a developmental tool for young students, but also empowers the high schoolers to become positive role models. We had our first foray last week, and thank you very much to Michelle LaForge. And Emmett was a part of that. How'd it go?
I really enjoyed what was happening at the high school. We went to English class, and I learned a lot. I don't remember one of them, but I do remember two. I was with two high school girls named Celia and Amelia. And they were in a unit of Shakespeare. They were learning and reading about the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. No. No. We read a couple books, like Where the Wild Things Are and Strega Nona. Probably, yes.
We also have some photos that you can see on the slideshow. I think they're probably. Any questions?
Just real quick, this is absolutely fantastic. I think it's going to give the elementary school children a whole new perspective and an appreciation. And I'm wondering if perhaps down the line, this partnership might possibly be extended to the other elementary schools at some point in the future.
So we can say, like, these are all pilots that we're doing together and hope to make it grow bigger. You know, the word for making something bigger that I can't remember. And
Mr. Boston and Nick Daigle are doing this partnership where the high school PE class goes over once a week. And so there's that. And then Abby, you and I have been talking about, we're going to do an art, they're going to do the thing, you've probably seen it, you know, several months after your children saw it on TikTok, but where elementary school designs something, draws something, and then the high school ceramics class will be, it's very likely going to be monsters of some sort. We'll fire them. So we've got 3 out of 4 elementary schools. We'll get that last one in. Jeanette and I will talk. And then the question will be like how to build it over time and transport and things. So,
Thank you.
Sure.
Good.
I just,
Another
no,
question?
it's not really a question. I just want to say thank you so much. We know how busy you are and that you would take even more time to do something like that. It's such an extra, but so wonderful. I mean, that's really heartwarming, and thank you for sharing your experience. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well,
it's,
thank you
it's
so much
awesome.
for putting that together.
Abigail?
I'm not in his class, but in Nick Daigle's class, there's a lot of students that love going to the elementary schools. I mean, I know Michelle probably already knows that, but like so many of them love going there and getting to talk to the kids, meaning like just to help them out and have fun with them. And I know that like a lot of those kids are starting to build connections with the high schoolers.
Yeah, no, that is really awesome. So thank you, everybody who's involved in that, because I know from my own experience, my son especially loves when he gets to do sports and stuff with high school kids. If they're like larger than life figures. And so it's awesome. Thank you. Reports? Anyone have any questions? I just wanted to flag, it was good to see the report from the school resource officer.
Yes.
I know people had asked for that, so thank you.
So Sean, I just
Yep,
wanted to
go ahead.
also comment on the report from the school resource officer. We talked so much last year about the position, and we were, I think, all really hopeful that this would turn out exactly the way that it's turning out, which is really fantastic. I've had a lot of excellent feedback from people in the schools about his presence and just how, what a great individual that was chosen for the position. So wanted to comment on that. Also, I saw in the information that we were given that a staff survey, like a follow-up to the survey that has already been done, will be done to provide further information about sort of staff morale and communication. So looking forward to seeing those results when they're available.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything else from anybody? All right, we will move on. This is the subcommittee meetings. There's a bunch of different meetings coming up. There's that.
You might want to review the policy, because we got first read.
Oh, your
Yeah.
first reads? Oh, did I miss those?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
they're
didn't-
below, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, first reads, Wendy. Do you want to talk about any of those? There's first reads.
Yeah.
The ones in the packet we had?
Yeah, first reads. Do you want to share anything? Did anyone have any feedback?
Let's
There's
see.
nothing flowing. Who had? Okay, yeah, I'll let Wendy go and then I'll get to you, Tyler, sorry.
I think a lot of the first reads, we took the advice of the MSMA, what they wanted for the updates. I think Jay was very thorough in his explanation too, about the swatting versus bomb threats, things like that, and to keep it separate, which completely makes sense. For the second read, the one EBCE, school closings and cancellations, we added any exceptions will be at the discretion of the superintendent, and that was in reference to an incident that we had at the school, was that 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, over Halloween, where things had to be canceled, but then it was found there wasn't a threat.
but we had a soccer team that was about to go play at States, and they needed to practice. And I know the superintendent had to bend over backwards to get them to practice at another field and another high school. And so there was a lot going on behind the scenes. And so this extra line, if we can't foresee all the new things that might come down the pike, we felt strongly it needed to be in there because we can't foresee what's going to come next. And these solutions, the threat was negated, so there was no reason that we couldn't move forward with preparing for state at that time. That was just one of the examples. The one line in here for policy EEA was for safety sensitive functions. We didn't know what examples of that would be, so we have 3 examples of what safety sensitive functions mean. And I think the rest of them are pretty straightforward with, we basically took the advice, we did take the advice of MSMA for the new policy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Tyler, is yours related to policies or something?
No, I just needed to make an adjustment on one of the reports. I was absent for the December curriculum committee meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
We'll get
okay,
that
yes.
corrected. So, thank you, Todd.
Yep.
So if anyone has any changes to those policies, they email you, Jay?
Yeah.
They email Jay. If anyone has any questions or any changes before second reading. All right. We will move on to action items, unless anyone has anything else. That's actually seeing none, we will move forward. All right, approval of minutes of February 28th, 2024 board meeting.
I move we approve the minutes of February 28th, 2024 board meeting.
Haven't been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will call for roll call.
Wendy,
Yes.
Kristen,
Abstain.
David G,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Patricia,
Yeah.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kelty. I think she flicked off there. David T.
Yes.
And Abigail.
Yes.
There you go,
That
motion
is
passes, one
unanimous.
abstain.
Well,
One
one
abstain.
abstention, yeah,
Yeah.
one abstention, sorry. Acceptance of donations?
I move we approve, or I move that we accept the donations minus the Hassan Post Family Dental that will come back on March 20th.
Second.
Haven't been moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, we will move to a vote.
Let's see, Wendy, you're first.
Yes.
Kristen,
Yeah.
David G,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Patricia,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
is Kelty back? Not yet. David T,
Yes.
Abigail.
Yes.
So that is unanimous.
All right. We will move along to approval of revised organizational chart. Can get a motion, then we can go into discussion.
I move that we approve the revised organizational chart.
Second.
Haven't been moved and seconded. Discussion?
That's different.
Yeah, Jay, or if you want to start with Jay, trying to go through it? Yeah, Jay, if you want to.
So we hadn't actually updated this in about almost 3-4 years. So we, one of the big things that we had to update was the addition of the principal, full-time principal at the elementary schools at both Wayne and Mount Vernon. Previously, that had been a shared position. So we had to update that. And then the only other addition that we put in there was you'll notice that there's some coming out down from the superintendent of school. You see the curriculum instruction assessment director as well as special education director. They kind of act as the second in charge when I'm not there. So I wanted to add a dotted line to show that they do have decision-making authority in my absence. So that was the other kind of major addition that went in at that point.
So those dotted lines weren't there.
They were not there before, yeah. But I added them in because I need somebody to be able to have decision-making authority when I'm not available for whatever reason. Or shouldn't say me, whoever the superintendent is.
Thank you, Jay, for doing this, because I am the one that asked you to do it. I also was hoping that, because part of the reason I asked for this is I think there's a lot of confusion as far as the chain of command within schools. So I'm hoping that, I don't know if it doesn't need to be brought to us for approval, but I'm just hoping that it can be made available. So, you know, like it says the MES principal and leadership team, who that leadership team is it teachers, is it like who makes it up, and where you would go to if you had an issue. That way it kind of follows the chain of command that we want to see people follow. But thank you for all your work.
Yes, you're welcome.
Any other, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, just organizationally, if I'm counting that up right, Jay, do you have 16 direct reports, right?
Yes.
That span of control is pretty big.
Yes.
You know, so, well, that's something as a board we should talk about, because it's almost too big to try to manage all that. And I know we're working within a budget, but you know, that's just an awful lot to put on one person's.
Well, and I will just throw this out there that at one time they did have an assistant superintendent, but they haven't had one in a long time. And I do have a suggestion if you guys ever want to hear that. Now is obviously not that time, but I do have a suggestion if you guys ever want to hear that or want to discuss it further. We can bring that up. So.
But no, not now.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it now just because I think that clouds this.
No, but I appreciate you doing this. This is very helpful, but I think for folks looking at that, that's an awfully broad number of folks to be responsible for directly.
I have really good people I work for, or that work with me, so that's why I'm able to manage it.
And also, I don't see Deputy Nate on here. I probably should be on here somewhere.
That is probably a good point. I never picked up on that. See him going probably right here.
Any more discussion?
That was my
question.
That's also one of mine, thank you, Rebecca. The SY that is next to the Wayne and the Mount Vernon principals, what is it?
School year, so they don't have a 260 day contract. They have I believe it's a 197 day contract, or is it 195 day contract? So I always say the wrong number.
And you did share that recently in a different context, but I just didn't link together the.
Do we want to amend it to include deputy Nate, so it's just include that? You want to suggest?
Yeah, I don't know where to put it right,
Okay.
right
So
off
we
the
can
top
wait.
of
We
my
can
head,
come-
yes.
Okay, I didn't know if you had, all right, we can come back, but for now, we can approve this.
Yeah, if we could prove it as is, I will check into where Deputy Nate should
Okay,
fit
I wasn't
there.
sure how.
Yeah. I kind of have an idea, but I'd rather check before rather than shoot from the hip.
Makes sense. Any other discussion regarding this? Again, yes, it's very helpful. All right, we will call for a vote.
Go ahead, Steve. All righty, you're okay for the vote. Wendy?
Before I vote, I'm approving this, but you are going to add Deputy
I
Nate in
am,
here
yes.
somewhere.
And I
Okay.
will bring that back to you guys. So,
Okay, thank
yes.
you. I just wanted to be
I just want
clear.
to check and make sure I'm putting him in the right spot, so.
Right. So yes.
Thank you, Wendy. Kristen?
Yes.
David G?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Patricia,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kelty is not back online yet, David T,
Yes.
Abigail,
Yes.
and unanimous, that's unanimously.
All right. Thank you.
So,
Okay, now we are going to move on to the approval of the 2024-2025 school year calendar.
I move we approve the 24-25 school year calendar.
Haven't been moved and seconded. Discussion?
As staff with the calendar.
Yes, we had I had a discussion with the association.
Kristen?
Graduation. So it, compared to last year, it's a week later?
Yes.
Still at the Civic Center?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if this is going to affect this coming year, probably not. But has anybody seen the article about the Civic Center possibly being renovated / new building?
We've not
Okay.
heard that.
Okay, so there was an article, I don't know, February, late February,
Yeah.
that came out saying that an Augusta, I think it was don't remember details. I can send it if anybody wants to see it. But basically, whoever they is they are talking about renovating the Civic
City
Center.
council.
Yes, that's what it was. Thank you.
It
So
needs like $30 million.
something that needs to be on our radar, obviously, because it was such an issue when we did not have the Civic Center as an option. So now we may actually be forced to not have the Civic Center as an option. So we need to be proactive, and that's coming up.
That sounds good. Michelle, please go ahead. Michelle has some information too, so.
We actually incidentally just happened to have been in close contact with them this last week because we're scheduling our regular meetings to review the space and go over all the things. So I know we're okay for this year, but we're having a meeting, so I'll be sure to bring it up.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
I did not know that. I
Yeah.
have not heard that at all, so
It's
thank you.
insignificant.
Yeah.
It's insignificant disarray.
Well, the roof is
I was at the
leaking,
meeting.
and I know they are gonna, according to the article, I think they are going to replace the roof, but I think more renovations need to happen as well. So that could result in closure, or even a new building was kind of thrown out there, so need to make sure we're.
I think it would take longer than a year.
I think so too. I think it's probably in the next 5 years, but
We gotta keep a pulse on it.
just something to think about.
Yeah.
So it is a week later? is that-
Yes. And notice we're actually starting school. We'll do our workshops before the Labor Day holiday, and we'll actually be starting school after the Labor Day holiday this year. So, which is a little bit of a change. Apparently, we haven't done that in quite a long time. So, but by moving it back a week, that allows us to do that.
Go ahead.
Right, yes.
Go ahead, Dave.
Would be the 16th. Yep. That's Juneteenth. And we want to make sure we're done before Juneteenth. We don't want to have to ask people to come back on the Friday kind of thing. So that's why we're being very careful with that right around that time. So, yeah.
All right, any more questions? Leslie, go for it.
I do see extra vacation days at the December break because of just sort of how it
Yes,
slips
yep.
into the new year.
Yes.
That's part of the push
Yes.
for graduation. It's also part of the push for last year's school.
Yep. Absolutely.
Is there a chance that those could be reconsidered if we have to be in an emergency state at some point?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Any more questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move to a vote.
Nope. Okay. Sorry about that. Wendy,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
David G. Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Patricia. Rebecca,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
LT back, not yet. David T,
Yes.
Abigail,
Yes.
and so passes unanimously.
All right, now we are moving on to nomination of middle school assistant principal Christopher
Goslin, yeah.
Goslin. All right. Your motion?
I move to support the superintendent's appointment of Christopher Goslin as middle school assistant principal.
Haven't been moved in second. Discussion?
If it's okay, he actually wanted to be here, but he actually had a vacation scheduled in Florida, began last week, and he was coming home today and his flight was coming in later. So I will be inviting him to another meeting so that you guys can all meet him, just so that you guys kind of know. He really wanted to be here and he wanted to write a letter. And I said, no, it's okay. You can come afterwards. Just go enjoy your vacation right now because you're going to be plenty busy when you get here.
So maybe it's, when can you start?
He's actually looking to start April 1st right now.
No, I think this is looks like a great hire. So excited to. All right. Well, if there's any more questions or discussion, you will move on to a vote. All right, let's do it.
All righty. Wendy,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yeah.
David G.
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Patricia. Rebecca,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kelty back, not yet, David T,
Yes.
Abigail.
Yes.
All right, passes unanimously.
Right. We'll move on to G, discussion of staff engagement survey.
Yep. So I brought some stuff. I know there's some, I don't know if it's easier to do questions and kind of answer it that way, or if it's better just pass them out, some stuff out to you guys and then go from there. What's the general feeling?
Let's pass this out.
Okay, so Donna is gonna pass around a little packet that I put together for everyone. That paper out of the way. I'm just gonna wait a moment so everybody has a little packet in front of them so I can talk through what you're looking at. So they're coming around. Yeah. So just a quick little history lesson, for lack of a better way to say it. I initiated this morale staff engagement survey last year in school year 22-23. And we partnered with the Educational Advisory Board, who is a research-based firm that does research and then puts together kind of plans that you can use. So we did it last year, and we went through a process last year where we did a survey that was put out to all the staff. Then we did a round of focus group questions. Then we took all of that information, kind of compiled it together, and then what we did is we met with the association. The human resource director was involved. We went through a process through EAB to identify a couple of threat areas and the threat areas are actually listed on that first page. What we did is identify 2 threat areas. The threat areas are things that might be undermining staff engagement or morale. And the first year we did it, we actually split out support staff and professional staff. So we had results just for the support staff and then just for the professional staff. But we found that what we needed to do was kind of, in order to be able to take action, we kind of had to meld them back together. So we identified a couple of threat areas, and then we proposed some very simple solutions to address those things. So last year, the things that we came up with were the no meeting weeks, which we have now started to get feedback on, and we'll be reevaluating those going forward. We've had some just kind of anecdotal discussions with teachers and staff to be like, well, if you'd have moved it up, it would have been easier this week versus the weekend. So we're looking, I think it's something that, at least anecdotally, seems like it's being well received, but we may want to adjust like what weeks we're doing those on, just because we're getting feedback about that at this time. So we'll be doing that we have one more no meeting week coming up actually next week. And what we'll be doing is getting some feedback on the dates of that. And now that we've got a calendar, it'll be easier to kind of plug in next year where that fits. The other thing that we did, and I know this looks like, okay, come on, Jay, this is really, really simple, but we picked up some kind of affirmation cards, and every director got some of these, and they just have a little saying on the front, and then if they wanted to, and I left this up to the administrator, write a little note on the back if you want to, and give it to the person that you're kind of recognizing, whether you do it anonymously or whether you do it in their mailbox, or if you kind of come in and say, hey, I want to give you that, whatever it is. And this was, even though this is kind of simple-ish, this was very well received. The goal to do this was to ask each director to make sure that everybody got one within the first half of the year. That was something else that we asked for. And again, we're just going to be checking to see, did people actually get these, and how did it make them feel, basically. But again, these are, it was very simple, and it kind of took us, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that is, as we undertake what seem like very simple strategies, they're also sustainable and doable strategies. So like you can repeat this year after year without a whole lot of effort, so to speak. I didn't want there are some, you'll see in just a sec, they give you a whole list of suggestions, and some of them are very involved and they call them very complex tasks. And then some of them were very low. This was kind of in the middle as something that we asked our people to do. Specifically our directors, so that they were getting recognition from basically their supervisor, which we thought was really important. And that was something that had shown up last time as something that we should pay attention to going forward. So that's kind of the history lesson and where we are from last year's survey. So if it's okay, I want to talk about this year's survey and let you know where we are. We're not as far along as the information from last year. So again, we're going to kind of be looking, based on what I'm going to show you here, we'll be looking to implement a couple new things going forward into next year to see if it actually has an impact from that. So what I did is that first page, as you look at it, I wanted you to kind of see what it was. So they list out the threat areas. They talk about the average percent of disagreement and strongly disagree per question. So obviously, when you're looking at professional growth, it's at 46%. That was a place that kind of popped as something that we probably want to pay attention to, because there seems to be a lot more people that are marking that as either disagree or strongly disagree. And then as you get down to the bottom where it says ownership and input, 16% there. So that means that, if you're rank ordering them, so to speak, just on the percentages, this is what it is. So they take, if you flip the page, I gave you one page of kind of what the results look like. And I know this is a small page, so I apologize to you guys as you're looking at that. They take each question, give you the number of responses and what that translates to a percentage, and then they kind of let you know if it's does that question overall fall in the agree category, is it neutral, or is it something that needs to be, I forget what the third term is, it's agree or disagree, or, yeah, I think it's disagree. So they kind of rank that out for you, you see the breakdown, all that kind of stuff. And we use these questions that you see on the side. We go through a process and we use those questions to kind of figure out, okay, what question is something that we want to pay attention to. And we're using Maslow's needs and hierarchy. We have a cheat sheet we use with that, which just basically says, in order to reach fulfillment, and sorry, I'm doing a psychology class, I apologize, but you have to have your basic needs met first. So that's time and resources. That's personal safety and belonging. You have those things, then you can move to the next level, which is your psychological needs. Those areas are recognition and value, ownership and autonomy, leadership, trust and values alignment. And then if you want to reach self-fulfillment, you have to have the other two taken care of, then you can focus on like professional growth. So we go through a process, a series of kind of plotting out where all these questions fall. So then we can figure out what threat area do we want to pay the most attention to, and specifically drill down to which question is making us think, oh, we need to pay attention to this. So we go through a process with that. So right now, that's where we are. We have not done that step. I was looking at my timeline. Last year, we did it at the end of February. I'm a little behind from where I was last year. The other thing I want to be honest about is this basically took all year for us to work through, so we figured we got to slim it down a little bit. So we just did the survey this year. We didn't do the focus group questions, but we will be doing like the plotting out of all the questions and stuff to figure out our threat area. And then we'll follow that with the next thing that you see in there is like if we address time and resources, then the next thing that we are going to do is then say, okay, what are the strategies could we possibly use to kind of address that and talk about what's doable for us. So if you look on page 5 of that particular part of the packet, it starts to list out what the strategies are that you potentially could use and who would be responsible for it, what problem are you trying to address, et cetera, and how like complex it is. They also include other schools that have used this strategy specifically going forward. So these, I mean, obviously it's not limited to this, but they bring forth strategies that have shown to kind of move the needle, so to speak. And then you go through like, as you go further back, it breaks it down for you. So again, you kind of have things that you can, that are already built, but you can also customize for your own individual school district. So that's kind of what we did last time as we were trying to find things. Again, some of these are very simple, but some of them are very big. One of the reasons why I think the cards were a little bit, that I feel like the cards have been successful is because last year people were looking for recognition. And now that we're recognizing people, you notice that recognition and value kind of falls further down the list. So again, we're trying to target things, but also make them sustainable going forward. But if there's an area, we want to focus in on it as much as possible. And again, it's not like big earth-shaking things, it's the little things, right, that help improve morale going across the board. So that's kind of where we are. And I'll stop there and I'll try to answer any questions you guys have. There's a lot of information, and I gave you this because I want you to be able to kind of go home and look at it going forward. This is not everything. So these are the workbooks I used for the sessions last year, but we return back to these workbooks to kind of take a look at what we're doing. So again, we're using a proven, vetted, research-based approach to trying to improve staff morale or staff engagement. So that's kind of why we're doing what we're doing.
Go ahead.
So the first thing I want to say is that last week when I brought up the surveys and asked if we were going to discuss them, Sean, you said you expressed a concern or said, you know, we wouldn't be able to discuss these in the context of any kind of an evaluation. And the reason I'm bringing that up now is because I really want to, I want to affirm that that would be really inappropriate. So these questions do not at all get at the performance of any individual. These are the feelings of staff people.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with the way any person did their job. In fact, you could argue, I think really quite effectively, that some staff would feel undervalued or would feel that their point of view is not being considered, but they, you know, sometimes people lose out on something that they want for the greater benefit of the whole district. And, you know, that's likely what's happening in some of these, with some of these responses, is that people feel like there are initiatives, for example, a change in a reading program. That's a big deal. And that is something that this district leadership has undertaken for the, undoubtedly, for the benefit of students. That's a brave and courageous thing to do. It's a lot of hard work. And I think our administrators all of the principals, but Jay and Karen should really be commended for that. I have been through that as an administrator, and it's very rough going. And you just have to be willing to do what's right for students and take some heat. And the adoption of a science of reading-based curriculum and all the work that's being done is really tremendous. And I'm sure it's not been super easy and not 100% supported. There's nothing trying to work out that way. So I love the affirmation cards. That's non-contingent praise, which is really important. And, you know, it should be genuine. It should be really frequent. And those are great things. I'm sure people really appreciate those. You mentioned, Jay, the recognition and value is lower on the list of threat areas. Is that compared to the original information that you got when you met with people? Is that in that big old stack of stuff that you have?
Yeah, hold on, I can answer that. Recognition and value last time was the number one.
Okay.
From last year's information.
So that was a 2022
yes,
survey?
Yes,
okay, yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. I never thought to give you guys that one. I probably should have. I can make sure I copy it and send it to you guys.
No, you probably already have, but I just, you know. So the focus groups, so you'll follow up on, is there a process to understand better why people answered the way that they answered?
So, like when we did the focus group, we basically took everyone in and then assigned them a number and then randomly chose people and made sure we had a selection across groups to be able to do that. I'm going to be honest in saying that was an immense amount of time to do that, because then we had to coordinate the meetings and we actually had the administrators do that. So it wasn't like I went back and forth with, should it just be the superintendent doing it, or should we put a neutral person so that they'll talk freely and all that kind of stuff. We ended up going with the administrators, did various groups. So like, I'm going to use Abby just real quick. Like, we made sure whatever group she did didn't have someone from Manchester so that they could speak freely. We didn't want that to be colored. At least that was our hope. So, yeah. But we're not going to do that this year just because of time.
That makes sense. And this is just a huge undertaking for the benefit of staff. I mean, you're doing this because you care about staff morale.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just going to point out that these are, like, I'm on the school board and I didn't remember some of the things that you've already shared. So I just want to point out that sometimes when things like this come out, it feels like there's not transparency. People don't know what's going on. Well, people don't remember everything that's been told to them. And so just for the benefit of anybody, you know, listening to this conversation or interested in this. I mean, this is a genuine attempt to make things better for the people that work in the district, and I think it's a great process.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing it.
Next, David?
I agree. It's really good that this is going on. Thank you. And the way things are being addressed. Could you speak again to the professional growth?
Yes, we haven't, so honestly, we haven't dug into that yet. So what we'll do under professional growth is look at each of the questions that align with professional growth and then kind of say, okay, what can we do to help? Like which one? And again, you're not going to get everybody or everything, but what you're trying to do is pick something that's kind of the biggest bang for your buck. If you're going to put the effort in, you want to see some sort of result for it. So that's where we are with that right now. Last year, we ended up with recognition and value and time and resources. Those were the two that kind of rose to the surface, so those are the two we addressed. My gut tells me that recognition and value and, or excuse me, not recognition and value, time and that was, have this mixed up, I apologize. The two that I had at the top, those are probably the two that we're most likely going to end up looking for strategies for, more than likely. So that's kind of where we're going, but that's, like I said, I'm probably a couple weeks behind from where I was last year in terms of sitting down and working through that information. Yep.
That's wonderful. I mean, yeah, go ahead, Tricia.
I remember when I was teaching kindergarten, we used to write notes regularly to us, and I still have
Yeah.
because I was so excited to get them. We appreciate it very much. That I can see like it's fun.
For sure. It seems, at least from my point of view and what administrators and directors have told me, is that people appreciate it because again, it's not something you're doing, it's not forced, it's like, it's this genuine in the moment, hey, I noticed you did something great, I noticed you've been putting in a lot of effort, you know, whatever it happens to be, and you can kind of just give that moment, and that's what means the most to people. What we found when we were talking last year was people didn't want things, and I'll say that loosely. You know, everyone likes things, but as a school district, there's only so much things we can do. Then you start to exclude people and all that kind of stuff. So we're looking, again, we want to make it sustainable. That's the goal.
Annie's next.
Well, just a quick comment about the cards. I might not be the only parent that's drawn a parallel between them and the shout outs that children get. It's a great way to encourage just feeling valued and seeing progress, success is a great way to motivate anyone, young or old. So I just wanted to say that.
Mine was, and actually Jay just touched on it just slightly, but appreciation is really different to a lot of different people. From, you know, working somewhere where we might have gotten a pizza party, and a pizza party did not mean anything to me, right? The things that matter most to some, speaking only from my slice of where like I would come from, is that someone really truly understands what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and what might be hard about it, and truly understands my piece and my contribution in the way that I'm trying to pull the rope in the same direction as a larger member of a group. And we may all do it different, but those things that people appreciate won't always be. So the note thing is encouraging, and to Annie's point, I agree for the kids as well, but they've got to be specific enough to really be meaningful. So the encouragement would be for those connections all the way through, so that when those can come, it feels like someone saw someone in a moment where they weren't so sure that everybody might have been paying attention.
Right. Yep, exactly.
You don't have to call me.
No. I was going to
Anybody
get
else?
everyone once
No.
and then go back.
I was looking at the, my opinions are heard and valued. That's a tough one if you're a manager to hear and then say that a lot of people just can't deal with it. But going back to that org chart, looking at that span of control, if you have 16 direct reports, how can you possibly make anybody listen, I mean, it's too much. And I think that structure has to change somehow. That may be an investment we have to make, but that's critical. It's a low-cost piece. If you can sit with a principal, I'm going to come over, I'm going to hang out with you for 4 hours during a work day or a couple hours here and there. And if you don't have the time to do that because you're hurting all the other cats, then that's really hard for a subordinate to feel heard, you know. And these are feelings, and it's they're individual things. So the second piece of that is, what, if anything, can the school board do to help you guys solve some of these problems? Is there anything specific that we can do? And happy to.
That's a great question that I'm not prepared to answer tonight.
Don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, but yeah.
I'm gonna go to Christine.
So I have two questions. One is, do you have IEPs during your meeting weeks?
No, we try not to.
That's great. Yeah. In a lot of districts, IEPs are excluded from the no meeting week, and it feels like you're not heard and valued. And then on being heard and valued, I just wanted to say, like, when you're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you get to those upper level things like autonomy, I mean, the hierarchy of needs applies to a person's personal growth and development over their time of their life. And I just think you don't always have autonomy in an employment situation, and that's just the truth. And sometimes people don't like that, but again, not everybody's opinion, not everybody's going to get the reading program they want. Somebody has to make a decision for the district as to what's best for students. Not everybody's going to, going to get whatever, right? Some people didn't want a school resource officer. We have a school resource officer. Some people are going to be upset about that. You have to make a decision and move on, and I just think that's strong leadership. And I wonder too, again, just a caution about interpreting these results to mean something that they don't. We see here that the some percentage of disagree and strongly disagree responses to, in the past year, my district has provided opportunities for me to learn and grow as a teacher. I think those opportunities are probably everywhere, every day. I might be wrong about this, but I think there are probably professional learning clubs, committees, rather, opportunities to participate in a lot of things. So maybe somebody's, I don't know, interpreting this data is, I think we should just be really cautious about it. So, I'm done.
Thank you. Thanks. Leslie?
I would also just say back to a larger population that make up the school district as a whole, though, is that there's also not positive morale in those that talk about things without the intention of trying to find a solution as well. Find your one person, that you have your person where if you've got to do some of that, you got one safe person that understands it for what it is, but also knows or can help you find your way through and past that to trying to find solutions. So the autonomy is absolutely there for folks to show up with a good attitude, goodwill, and good faith on trying to pull the rope in the same direction and be a part of voicing things in respectful ways that try to solve the problems that are faced. Hopefully looking for a more collective benefit than always only individual benefit, because there's much greater strength there.
Yeah. Anything further? This is a lot of work, so thanks for taking it on, and it's helpful to everybody. So I appreciate it, and I've learned a lot. So this is great. Thanks.
Yes.
Budget workshop.
How does it so we are going to have a kind of a series of presentations going forward. The first one up is going to be Ryan Meserve with the special ed operation. So Ryan, if you want to jump up there, and I know Diane will get the slideshow ready. As Diane's putting it up there, again, I'm not going to read those to you, but we kind of add what's going on, what our goal is, and then again, what the team directives were as we started this process. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan.
All right, so I get to follow a staff morale survey. That's a good place for me. But yeah, we don't have IEP meetings during no meeting weeks. It's a great event to happen, just to kind of talk about that when the week is actually occurring. The week before and the week after are a little rugged sometimes, but so we're in the middle of that right now. But just to talk a little bit about next year's budget, I am going to kind of try to summarize and frame what it currently looks like right now within the special education department. Because you can see up here, the two main bullet points that I've listed don't have much movement. It's kind of a budgetary wash at this point. So to be in line with the district goals, we are looking to slightly reduce some of our current staffing of a 0.6 behavior assistant. The work of this individual will be absorbed into some current positions. All those individuals are on board with that, actually recommended it. Just the way that we have our structure and setup right now, primarily within our specialized programs, allows us to do that. So I feel pretty comfortable with that recommendation right now. This year we have had a fair amount of students that have moved in. We seem to always be on the plus side of transfers, not just transfers, but referrals, which I think is a testament to the district in terms of what we have, but it does mean sometimes we need to scramble and adjust. So about mid-year, we had a bunch of move-in students for various reasons, and a few of them were placed in out-of-district placements. Sometimes we're able to find programming within the district that works to bring them back through a transition process, and other times it's an appropriate placement that we have to continue and we're mandated to do so. And just the way it works this year, we are planning for one more out-of-district placement for next year. And again, I say plan because our end goal is always to try to program for students in district. But because of that, I'm looking to add one more into the budget for next year. But like I said, at least the way it seems to work out is that should be a cost off, almost a cost offset with the reduction of that 0.6 behavior assistant. Those are the main budgetary highlights for the special education department. I'm not looking to reduce staff in any other way. At this time, same level of educational technicians or professional staff. I always like to say this publicly, and I say it to the staff too. They know this as well. We go where the student need is. So we might have students that move into Wayne Elementary, might get a handful of students, 5 of them, all with special education needs, and we will adjust and adapt. We also, from year to year, usually have students that move up from 5th to 6th or 8th to 9th that bring along some staff or some programming needs, and we have to shift staff. And as much as people don't like to move, that certainly ties into morale. They do understand why that happens, and I'm pretty transparent about needing to do it. I tell them once we finally know that needs to occur, and we have some discussions on who would be the best fit, how that would work. So likely we'll need to move some of these around. I preface all this because I'm going to get into where staff are right now, how many ed techs we have, how many teachers we have, how many specialists, but knowing that that may need to move or shift, and likely will, given some of the student transitions. So currently, right now in our district, our staffing configuration is at Manchester Elementary School. In our resource room, we have 1 special educator, 2 ed techs. In Wayne, in our resource room, we have 1 special educator and 1 ed tech. Mount Vernon, we have 1 special educator and 1 ed tech. In Reedfield, our largest school in the district, we have a resource room that has 1 special educator and 3 ed techs. And we have our readiness skills specialized program that has 1 special educator and 8 ed techs. In our middle school specialized program, we have 1 special educator and 5 ed techs. In our middle school learning center, which is comes 6th grade, 6th through 12th grade, we try to shift the term to be learning center to focus more on transition planning, post-secondary goals, what it might mirror when they get to school after high school. We start calling it the learning center, but it is a similar model to the resource room. There we have 2 special educators and 2 ed techs at the middle school. The same configuration at the high school learning center, 2 special educators and 2 ed techs. And then our high school transition life skills program, we have 1 special educator and 2 ed techs. And then throughout the district, we have various specialists and itinerants. Use the term FTEs or full-time equivalents because some of them don't work full-time. We have 2.8 speech pathologists. It's actually 3 individuals, got 1 person out, but they only work 4 days a week. So, and then we have a 0.2 PT, so physical therapist, and that just is based on student needs. We have been had higher physical therapy needs in the past. As currently right now we have 0.2. We have 1 full-time occupational therapist and a 0.4 CODA or occupational therapy assistant. We have 1 full-time district board certified behavior analyst, 1 full-time licensed clinical social worker, and 1 full-time school psychologist. So we have close to 50 staff total throughout the district, if you're doing the math and adding it all up. So it's definitely varied and shared against all the buildings. I will say years ago, we did have at some of our smaller schools, it's really hard to plan for the needs of special education students that move in. And we had, when I first started here as the director years ago, we did have some part-time staff that shared across buildings. And just in terms of needs throughout the day, even though the direct service needs may not always be as necessary within those smaller schools, given the caseloads, it is really important to have that presence there all the time. So that's something that when you look at it in terms of building size and numbers, it might look like it's a little bit divergent from, from Manchester that might have 1 special educator and 2 ed techs to Wayne, given their enrollment size with 1 special educator and 1 ed tech. But it is really critical to make sure that we have that presence there, not just to support the students, but the staff as well. So I did want to mention that. And like I said, I'm not looking to add any positions at this time, but I always like to give the caveat of special education that I never know what's going to happen or what moves in. Best laid plans would be people tell me in June, or actually best laid plans would be they tell me in March or April before I have to present to you. But the only knowns I have are the CDS students that may move in and they may also not move in. And then a lot of times we don't start getting new student enrollment information until 2 weeks before school starts. And so it's really hard to kind of plan for that. And I give a lot of credit to the special ed staff who are incredibly flexible when they get the probably not so fun emails from me that you have 4 new kids on your caseload, they start tomorrow, let's meet and talk about what we can do. So they always at least smile with me when I'm in the meeting, and then I'm sure they vent based on all the kids coming in. But they do a great job across the district. The staff are exceptional here, and they perform at a really high level, and so we're lucky to have them. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So you have 1 full-time social worker. How many special education students are in the district? Roughly.
Roughly 140 or so.
And how many overall students in the entire district?
We're at about 13 to 14%. We are really lucky. I say this all the time. We are really lucky that the board and the community support so many general education interventions that really does help with those numbers. And I think a lot of it also, we have a really good community too that supports that. So, and the social worker number, I know a lot of districts have more social work time. We have a pretty well-established health center connection and KBH contract. So that does offset some of those ones where they don't double dip or dual serve students.
Yeah, that was my question, is what are the general education interventions that are supporting some of that mental health stuff? Because with 1 social worker, I would not expect that you'd be able to, I mean, that's probably the person who does services on IEPs, and then general education students are served by KBH in general.
Not all the time, but sometimes, and sometimes they have established other KBH connections where if it's more community-based or family-based, in addition to school stuff, they will, lean more towards KBH than they will towards the district one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 13 to 14% is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's, I'm sure, reflective of the strength of the general education program, and that science of reading-based, research-based curriculum is only going to improve those numbers. I'm sure you won't get as many reading referrals with that curriculum. Just that's the way it goes. Do you have any virtual services, speech language, or school psych? It sounds like we don't need that.
Knock on wood, I hate to say it, I mean, we are currently fully staffed,
Yeah,
and
that's great.
we have not had to rely on any of those. We've been really lucky to not have to do that. Not that they can't be effective, but we haven't had to do that for any speech services or OT or anything like that. We certainly considered it during COVID because we were scrambling at times, but no, at this time we don't have to.
And last thing, I saw you included a letter to everybody about the CDS transition that's been happening for several decades now. But do you anticipate needing any additional, what are you thinking? Well, we're going to need some additional school psychologists to do evaluations or teachers to work with the pre-K to 5 population, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's hard to answer fully because I don't know what the implementation rollout will be. I mean, right now, the way they're proposing it is 4 years down the road, which with early adopt, you can be an early adopter and have some incentives to do it. Obviously, if we take on, it's not just the 4-year-olds, it's the 3-year-olds too. And I think that's the biggest X factor in terms of how many families, I think I put in the letter too, there's this extension of Part C where they're trying to give an avenue where families could still, within their natural environment, their home or their daycare, stay with CDS rather than have to come into the public school system. And if that happens the way they hope it happens, and really you're looking at most of your 4-year-olds or your more significant 3-year-olds, which is more manageable. I mean, we have pre-K within our schools, or at least within our district, everywhere where the Wayne students go to Reed Field. So I feel pretty comfortable that we could expand that. I talked about the 2.8 FTE of the speech. I mean, a lot of those ones, majority of those services are speech and language or OT. So obviously I would probably want to increase speech at that point. Administratively, I think if we're talking about down the road, and this is 4 years down the road, I mean, I do 400 something IEP meetings a year. I do 99% of them myself, which is one of the great things about being in a small district is I can attend most of those, but I mean, that would be burdensome to pick up all those ones because you'd have the 3 to 4-year-old transitions from C to B for CDS, and then you'd have all those other additional evaluation meetings for referrals for 4-year-olds. So I would imagine administratively it might be challenging. Nicole Fife, who's the administrative assistant, I mean, she does all the paperwork out of our central office. So I think if I told her I was adding another 30 or 40 CDS kids, we'd have to take a walk and enjoy some peaceful moments up on the trails before she did that. But all those things, occupational therapy, those things would be considered. And then certification is a big question mark right now because the way it's written, they tried to get it changed so it was so it was 3 to 22 for the special ed certification, and at least do pre-K to 8 and then 7 to 12. But right now that's not the way it's written. So that could mean that we could use existing teachers if they switch it, or it means that we might have to have other ones. So there's a lot of moving parts, and the ed committee works at an interesting, the way they work is sometimes interesting.
Thank you for answering.
Leslie?
I wonder, Ryan, the way you listed out which staffs, which positions are at which schools would be a really great one-pager for us to have.
Yeah, I think Jay and I have talked about that. He has my numbers and he's.
I have something, it's a 2-pager, but I have something for you.
Okay, great. That's great. That would be great from all the presentations, if I could just chime that in now.
All right. Any further, Danny?
Just real quick, what's the formal title of the behavior assistant? Are they literally that's their title, behavior assistant?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I think in large part because of certification. So there's there is a board certified assistant behavior analyst, and that was the first when we had this, especially I forget it's a few years ago when we did it. The goal was to hire a BCABA, an assistant behavior analyst, but if they didn't carry the certification, we did it behavior consultant, behavior assistant. But a lot of the stuff that they ended up doing within their workflow were things that we feel like we can cover. In large part because we have a really experienced staff. So I mean, I will give credit to you as a board and the community for supporting the specialized program lane within the contract. Soon after that, didn't happen right away, but word got around quickly and we've been able to hire some really exceptional ed techs, BHPs from other specialized programs or from elsewhere that carry a lot of professional experience with them that have allowed us to make everyone else's job a lot easier as that goes along.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all you do as well.
Any further questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
I'm going to invite up Sean Drinkwater next to review facilities, or actually it's maintenance and operations on the slideshow.
Good evening. My favorite night of the year. Okay, so we're just gonna go over some proposed projects. The energy cost is a big thing in my budget every year. Property liability insurance, that's also in my budget every year. So I'm gonna go over some projects that are in my budget, and then I am going to be going over a lease purchase, which I believe you guys had listened to Diane's budget last week, and it's kind of like the same thing. So in my regular budget this year, Mount Vernon, we've got the playground chips, as we do every year, painting, and we have 2 new pumps in the boiler room that need to be replaced this year. Their total at Mount Vernon for that is $14,500. Wayne Elementary, we've got painting, we've got the playground chips there also, and we've got carpet for the old town office room, and their total is $18,000. Manchester Elementary, we've got painting, and we need to get some new lunch tables down there, and their total is $17,000. Reedfield Elementary, we've got painting, we've got a wall and a door that needs to be built to block off the classroom. We've got playground chips that we do every year. We've got some special water filters now that we're using. They're very expensive that we're gonna get. We've got some door parts so we can fix some doors, and a couple toilets that I'd like to replace. And their total is $20,000. The middle school, we've got painting. We've got the dumpster rental that we do every year where we clean the basement out. We've got the gym floor resurfacing. We've got, I got the phase 2 of our boiler repair. We've got some heat valves that have to be bought. And we've got a gate for the parking lot that's gonna be put in right out back here for the total of $41,800. The high school, we've got painting. We've got siding repair that we've been doing in phases. We've got the gym floor resurface. I've got to have 4 new duct deflectors put in. We've got a bathroom remodel that we'd like to do. I've got an outside door that needs to be replaced, and I'd like to do some carpet replacement to keep going with what we have been doing. And their total is $53,500. Central office, got some carpet replacement down there on the phase 2 of that. We've got a door that I'd like to put in and some paint, and their total is $12,300. Bus garage is painting, some more brick repair that we do every year, and I got a telephone pole that needs to be replaced there. Their total is $12,500. A little bit of the equipment, we got vacuums that we need to buy, and we got 2 snow blowers this year that we need to replace for a total of $10,000. So that's the total for the smaller projects. Stuff this year that I'd like to put under the lease purchase. The middle school has a roof repair of $108,000 that's due this year. They've got carpets down here on the bottom section of $31,000. And we have an access control that we're going to put in on the door down at the other end of the school for $15,000 for a total of $154,000. The high school doorknobs, we'd like to have every doorknob up there be keyed alike, and it was $27,000 for the doorknobs. We have a sports garage down at the field that is no longer usable. We'd like to get that replaced at a total of $30,000. And we'd like to board in the walkway up at the high school. I'm not sure if a lot of you are familiar, but the kids go out of the school, go to the music room, they have to go outside. There's a canopy, we'd like to board that in so that it's all enclosed. So Now it's a total of 40,000 for that. So the total at the high school is 97,000. We do need a couple of big pieces of equipment this year. We need a lawnmower, a zero turn, a diesel zero turn, that's 25,000. And our Kubota RTV is due to be replaced at 30,000, for the equipment total at 55,000. So the project under the lease purchase, it comes to 306,000. So then the proposed annual 5-year lease purchase, and it's on the board there, is we've got all kinds of stuff. I won't go through everything so that you see it. And I will say that I've talked with Mandy. It took me a while to understand this lease purchase thing, but I do believe it's really a good idea to get us back to where I should be before, I'm going to say the bond project that we took out. When we took the bond out, we was able to do a lot of projects, and we were really on top. And then we went a couple of years to keep the budget in check, and then we lose, we go down. And unfortunately, every year I'm not able to catch back up. So, and I believe doing it this way will really help us. I'm not going to say I can do everything, but it will get us back up to where I feel comfortable. Any questions?
Any questions? Leslie?
Did you mention access? I know there's some recent access changes to the buildings. And did you cite door access to one building?
Yes,
it's
it's in the
$15,000 to one door?
It's in the middle school to move it. You got to buy licenses. It's quite a process to put that in.
So that it's badge swipe, is that
Yes.
what I'm understanding?
Yep.
Any other, David? That's the door at the end of the hall. That's such a long hall.
Yes. Yeah.
Brian?
Can't believe this is your favorite night of the year.
Yeah, that was a little
It's a
sarcasm.
good time, right? Yeah, you're doing fine. Has anyone ever talked about the boys' locker room in the high school and maybe some sort of?
Yeah.
No, I know it's probably frightfully expensive, but I graduated here in 1988 and it looks the same but worse now.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So Jay and I actually talked about that today, and we are actually working on a plan for that.
Because, it's not just the boys' locker room, it's the girls' one too, yeah.
No idea what that looks like.
But I also went here and did have to use that boys' locker room, and it is the same and worse. And I'm sure that they would.
I think there'd be broad community support. for
Yes,
improvements in those.
I agree with that.
Yes.
For sure.
I second.
So just, I just want to make a note real quick for Sean. The door handles, which are so expensive, those are actually at the, we're going to be looking to do that at basically all the schools, but we can only do a little at a time because they're so expensive. But that came at the recommendation of the SRO, because right now those knobs are the total wrong knobs to have in an emergency. And obviously, if you were doing a new construction, those would be the knobs that would be put in, would be the ones that Sean's going to replace with that. And the other thing, and having long conversations with Deputy Nate about the high school kids having to go outside and go into the music room. So they're basically, even though they have that little canopy and stuff, there's still obviously there's a lot of safety concerns there. So those are two pretty big pieces that I think came about because of recommendations from Deputy Nate that Sean and I talked a lot about being able to support those just for the idea of safety that goes into those. So I just wanted to point those two out. Again, we were talking about Deputy Nate, just showing that he is involved in a lot of different things right now in terms around safety and stuff, but came, from that. And when we said, yeah, we're going to put him in the budget, he was like, great, I'm so glad to hear that. It was really good. So I just want to let people know about that. So Sean is proposing a $300,000 lease purchase to do these projects. And that translates to a $75,000 increase in his budget line. But like, again, we talked about with Diane, we're getting more purchasing power and paying it off over 5 years. For those of you that weren't on the board when we did the bond, that's we don't want to be in a situation, that's what Sean's referring to, like, we used a $5 million bond, 5 million? It's 5 million, right? $5 million bond to catch up on all of the projects that there was just no way that we could do them. And we lucked out because we had a list of projects and we basically doubled that list of projects because of, we were able to use our money very wisely. But I also don't want to be in a position where we're having to go down a bond route again. That's, I don't think, very smart to do that. So with this approach, like, if you look at, and I know it's small up there, but we'll get you a copy of this so you can see it. But like every year he's doing a roof, like he's doing one next year, but he's actually got 2 more years out of schools that are going to need roofs. The roofs are just coming due and we're going to have to do them. So he's kind of tried to lay out, in the next 5 years, these are kind of the major projects that'll have to be done that are more expensive. So again, like we talked with Diane, we're not going to see wild fluctuations in the budget. It'll kind of level itself. It takes a couple of years to get to that level point, but once you reach that level point, then he can stay on top of his projects and you're not going to see spikes in the budget for those things. So sorry, I don't need to bore people to death.
Did you have something?
Yeah.
No, Pat.
Oh, Pat? I'm sorry.
Yeah, excuse me.
Yes, they're like the panic doorknobs, so that, yes, yeah, they're like, what do they call them, double barrel or something? I don't know exactly.
And
something, yeah.
they're a non-duplicate key.
Right.
They're special doorknobs. They're made for this situation.
Yeah. And that's what, in a new construction, that's what would be installed automatically now. It's just we have to retrofit it, obviously. So.
Ryan?
Those are just those lever types, not knobs.
Right,
It's an
exactly.
ADA
It's the
thing
lever,
as well.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, yep.
Are we going to be doing a lease purchase forever? So we're always going to borrow for, so there's an interest rate to that. Fortunately, it's a
Right.
short term.
Yes, yep.
Is there a plan for us to get away from having to borrow to fund our capital needs?
Right.
Whether it's
Right.
these bonds once in a great while or never ending 5-year ones?
Well, right now, we're looking, like, we want to get it built in, and then I think we have that conversation at the end of 5 years, say, okay, now we've got it built in. Do we actually need to do a lease purchase now that it's built in? And that's, I think, once we get there, that's the conversation.
Kristen, sorry.
Already been in.
So my question is a lot of this is around school safety. And there's a lot of money out there from the federal government when it comes to school safety. And I know that takes time or somebody to do that. So would it make sense if like the doorknobs are 15,000, that's school, like I've read these grants, like you add that up, is it worth hiring somebody to apply for these grants and pay them, I don't know what the going rate is, but to write the grant, and then you save money in the long run, because there's a lot of money. I mean, the school resource officer could fall under that. There's grants for that. It's all, the federal government is giving, well, it's our money at the end of the day, but they are redistributing money, a lot of money, and a lot of it's going unused. So I think it would make sense to take $10,000 and hire, or whatever it is, I'm making up a number, but to write these grants and have a return on the investment.
And that's something I could talk with Jay or Mandy about, and I wouldn't have the time,
No,
to be
no,
honest,
I know,
right?
I
And to
know
be honest, I
everyone is
probably wouldn't
loaded.
even
I'm
know
not
how to do it,
suggesting
but,
that.
yeah.
But if you took 10 grand or 20 grand and we got
Yeah.
$300,000 worth
That'd be
of
nice.
grants,
That'd be great.
it's worth it.
Absolutely.
And all of this is, in my opinion, an argument can be made for school safety.
I'm sure, yes, and that would be great, and like I said, that's something that
So
we could
I
talk
think
about.
we should look into that ASAP.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that would be, it's an expense.
That'd be nice to get it out of the budget, to be
And
honest
there's a
with you.
lot. I mean, when we had the school resource officer conversation,
Yeah.
there was grants. I actually talked to the sheriff, but there just wasn't enough hands to go around.
I mean, I wish we could do everything in this whole district, you know.
Oh, yeah,
for
no,
maintenance, right?
me too.
And there's just no way, but if we
Right.
could get stuff out, there'd be more things I could do, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Any more questions? All right, thanks.
Thank you, Sean. All right, a couple more, but they're not as long as Sean had. I'm not sure in the slideshow, Diane, which order they go in. Can you pop up? Okay, so great. So I'm going to speak. Sarah Morrill is not here. She's out on leave right now, but there are no proposed changes at the health center. We're operating within our budget, and we also get grant funding for that on a yearly basis as well. So absolutely no changes at the health center. Steve, I don't know if you want me to just say it, or if you want to say anything at all, you're certainly welcome to do that. If you don't mind jumping up to the podium.
So I just wanted to quickly go over, adult education obviously does a lot of different things. We have high SED, and we obviously do our Richmond and college transition programming, career counseling. But tonight I was going to talk only about our CDL program. So in the interest of time, as you know, I'm pretty passionate about our adult education program, and I probably could talk your ear off for hours. I'm not going to do that to you. So right now, I just wanted to really quickly just give you a little bit of history. I don't get to talk to this group as a whole very often, so I take this opportunity every year just to kind of give you a really brief overview. So when I first came in, April will be my 14th year that I'm starting here, so I've been here a very long time. It feels like a short time, but I guess it's getting up there in years. About a year into the program, our CDL vehicle went. It didn't work anymore. The clutch system went. It was irreplaceable. And so at the time I went to the school board and I asked for $5,000, which really seems like a lot of money at the time. But the vision that I had was for that money to be used to come back to the community and be able to support our students in the future. However, being a young adult ed director, I don't think I got that word across necessarily to the school board. So understandably, they had a hard time envisioning how I was going to use this money to give back to the local community. So we were able to find the funds, even though we didn't get school board approval through another means, and we were able to buy a vehicle for approximately $5,000. That Sterling is still on the road today and is still used for our program 13 years later. We have trained hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people with that vehicle. Those hundreds of people, a lot of them are in your local community. They got the training for free through some of the grants that we were able to ascertain and get from different sources. So there was a lot given back to the community. Also, those hundreds of people are the people that deliver your fuel oil, plow your roads and salt them, make sure you get safely to work in the morning, deliver your goods and services to your local markets, and drive your kids to school. So our program is really important. Also, this year alone, through a grant that we received through MJRP, Maine, don't even make me go and look for it, Maine Jobs Recovery Plan. We trained 15 students here this year. That's about a cost of savings to them that if they had to go out and get the program after they get out of school, about $70,000. In addition to that, we trained 14 students at surrounding schools. So these would be the students that go to CATSI from Gardner and Halldale and Erskine Academy and such. 10 of those were linemen going into KVCC. We have one lineman here who is going to KVCC, and I just want to tell you this quick story. That lineman, he got his CDL certification. It's a requirement of the lineman program. He was in line to get into the program on a wait list with 20 other students. When they found out that he had his CDL license, not just his permit, they put him number one and instantly accepted him into the program. So that's having the program here and being able to provide this to our students is really, really a value. And I think it's also a value, as I'm sure many of you agree, to our local community as well. So originally I had asked for about $40,000 to continue our high school program next year. That would be the full cost of the program if we saw it at the level that we did this year, which is about 15 students. Because we were able to meet the needs of so many students this year, I don't see that number being as high. Obviously, we provided training to a lot of juniors and seniors, so I'm anticipating that we're only going to see sophomores coming into the program this year with a few others that may change their mind and want to go into the truck driving program. So the costs aren't going to be necessarily as high. I also have a couple grants. I was working for the last month on an AFLA grant that we submitted at 4 o'clock today. It was a long, arduous process that I'm very glad is well behind me. But I believe that that's going to bring about $40,000 into the program over the next 2 years. And I do not think that we'll have any problem getting that accepted. Also, I have heard that we are going to get some other funds, probably similar to what we've received over the last 3 years, which is, I think it adds up to about $900,000-ish, so pretty good, to be able to continue that program for next year as well. So be able to provide the CDL program for free. So I feel like we could probably continue to meet the needs here of the students with those funds. I also heard that there's going to be a CDL specific grant released by the Department of Labor this summer, probably sometime in June. So I know what I'm going to be doing for part of my summer. But that's going to support CDL programs across the state, and we're only one of 6 remaining. So I'm sure that those funds will also help to support the list of students that we have. I have a wait list right now, just by the way, of 150 people who would like to take the class, who are unable to because they just don't have the funds available. They're unemployed or underemployed. And so you can see that there's an incredible need. There's a lot of people that would like to take the class, and there are a lot of jobs. What's stopping them going into the field? The funds. And that's where we're here, funds and training to help support them. So that's about all I had. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Those are great stories when I believe when the school can give back to the community as a whole. I know I hear about it in the community. I heard from a kid's grandfather, and it may be the same story you just told. He grabbed me at an event I was at and asked to talk to me, and he told me his grandson was able to move to the front of the line of the electrical program at KBCC, and he had tears in his eyes. So any amount of money we can spend to make those things, I think it's worth it.
Awesome, thank you.
Right? You're looking for these drivers every day.
This is my wheelhouse.
He's trying to get a cheat sheet on who they are.
I know, yeah, I am. That's awesome you're doing that. And make sure that they know that you don't just have to be a lineman. You can always work in a rewarding career in the water, sewer, and stormwater. just so you know, I mean, it's very important. Didn't you also need some money, or we're looking for some money to build a range of bigger? Can you talk about that for just a minute, to be a correspondent a little bit more?
Sure. So I have presented to the facilities committee, just so everybody knows. So I don't just go out and do these things. I'm completely on my own. So the idea would be that if we were going to expand eventually to the high school, that it would be really nice if we had a designated range that was here on campus. And an area does exist. If you've ever been on the backside of the high school, there's a large dirt parking lot. We would like to expand upon that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things in there. I'm going to talk about like water catchment systems. I don't know what that is, but they tell me that's a thing. And it's close to the sewers. And so there's a lot of things that would need to be overcome there. It also would require somewhere around 200 loads of gravel, simply because it goes directly downhill in that area. So there's a lot to it. An estimated cost that I had heard was about $100,000. Now, we do have a range. It does function. And that's at the transportation garage. And so, I run CDL as a business, with a business mindset at least, where if I'm going to invest in something, I want to make sure that I get a very good return on it. So that project, I think, should happen eventually. But I am waiting because we have some agreements with the Department of Transportation. We're on their fill list, it's called. And they're going to, if they have projects in the area, provide fill. So those 200 loads of gravel or fill that we would need, if they do that, you're looking at cutting that cost of 100, to a very, very, or a lot more reasonable amount, 50. And if that takes 4 or 5 years to do, I think that's well worth the investment. I always look at when they dump a load of gravel off, I'm like, wow, I just made another $250. Nice. So I think that that's important to look at, and I try to be as fiscally responsible as possible. And so, yeah.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Karen, do you mind stepping up for the professional development? I know it's, yeah.
So there's no proposed changes. It's a very small budget. It includes assessment for our district-wide assessments with the NUIA and Acadian, our world language assessment. It includes our membership to the Western Maine Educational Collaborative. It includes the stipend positions for the co-chairs for the teacher mentoring committee program, and it provides the stipends for all of the mentor teachers out there, stipends for the SAC leaders, for the curriculum leaders across the district. But really no changes. As for it, and I tell Mandy, it's really not a professional development because we don't really have any funds in there for professional development. Our professional development funds come mostly from our title funds from ESEA, and I've been taking every opportunity advantage in grabbing any grants that come down the pike to help for toward professional development, toward in how to be creative with how to not just look exclusively at that topic for that grant, but how I can leverage that district-wide whenever I can. So that's what all I have to say.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
So a couple more. Sean's gonna give our food service director, Jen Hall, a hard time because she did not want to do this. So I said, I got you here. So, but there are no proposed changes. The goal of the food service program is to match revenues and expenditures. Now that the state pays for 100% pays for all meals for all children, there's money there, so where she's put together a replacement for, like Sean did some of her equipment in her various kitchens in the school and stuff like that. But because of that, there's absolutely no change in the budget. It's just going to run the same as it has always run. Question?
Yeah, it's still coming together. So are there, if the state is funding our lunch and breakfast, does that mean that we can't, is there rules still at that point around what we accept into our lunch or our make for lunch offerings? Or because the state is funding, there's things we can do to supplement and do things even better?
Yes.
Because of the money we are not spending the same way.
What you just said. Yes, exactly. That second part where we're using the money to take a look at our menus and our food options and all that kind of stuff. So we're, for lack of a better way to say it, we're looking to increase options and or reduce some of the processed food and stuff like that. This has been a huge learning curve for her because she's never had this option before. So that's what she's working on this year is how can she increase it? And she's trying to figure out like the ordering to be able to do that and stuff. But that's exactly what she's spending the year doing. Just trying to upgrade, for lack of a better way to say it, that sounds horrible, but upgrade the food options.
No, I think anybody listening would understand what that is. It'd be good to get like updates on where she's able to go, with that. Kids get really interested. I mean, parents do too, but I know what's on the menu based on how quickly we're supposed to get out of the house and get to the school on time so that they can get to that hot lunch. And maybe there's a chance that there can be a greater offering, because I'm told that just if you're even a few minutes late in that line, you miss out on the premium goods and it moves to the alternative goods, which wouldn't have us out the doors quick.
Yes. is a true story.
Yeah, go ahead.
So since the funds are provided 100% by the state, does that mean we have guidelines from the state on how to spend that money?
There is still nutritional guidelines that we have to follow, yes. So,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, and I can ask Jen to share those. She's done that before, so I can ask her to share those. So
Yeah.
I think it's good to do that. There's a lot of new members on the board and haven't seen that, so I think that's a great thing.
Yeah,
So-
well, coming from a nutritional background, I do know that they count dairy and cheese as a protein, which is strong. But just things like that are interesting. Thank you.
I remember we went through it before, I was kind of blown away, and I'm not nutritional background. Anyway. It's just kind of interesting to me what they count as a grain and stuff like that. I mean, anyway. All right.
I will definitely bring that. And then there's one more slide after this. As far as system administration goes, in this we pay our regional service center dues, which is a partnership we have with Winthrop and RSU 2. And Richmond is joining that in the coming year. And we just get a small pot of money for that, it's a little over $40,000. And what we do is pay our dues out of that, so that way the regional service center has money for the things that we take advantage of. Like, for example, we have Frontline, which is our absent management system, and we pay for that, like it's paid for as a whole across the 3 groups as one. So we use that pot of money to pay for it, so it doesn't come out of the general fund, so to speak. But one of the things that we do is we try to make sure that $40,000, we try to limit it, so that way, like we have some of it left over. We're not just saying, here's $40,000 into this pot. We're actually able to use some of that. So we actually, last year, actually had a carry forward with the regional service center, so we didn't charge out all of our dues for this coming year. But now that we have whittled that down again, we're going to need to pay the full dues. So you'll see on the sheet I'm going to give you in just a second, $13,000. I didn't put it on the slide, but it's just basically the dues for the regional service center so that we can take advantage of the offerings. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes. Power School also gets paid. Thank you, Diane. That's another thing that gets paid because we're in the regional service center. The state pays it 100% for us, and we actually do a direct bill right to them. So we don't have to put that in our budget. We haven't done that for 5-6 years now. So, which is again a savings. So definitely worth it to have that. Okay, final slide. I think there's one more. And the last one is just debt service and lease purchases. So the lease purchases, I didn't specifically put up there because they're actually in like Sean's budget and Diane's budget. So I didn't put those in there again. And just again, so that you know, we're in year 4 of the facilities bond, that $5 million bond I referenced a little while ago. So it's a 15-year bond. So we have a little bit of a life to pay on that. So, but I just wanted that to be clear. That's the only bond that is outstanding at this point, so, which is nice.
I just told David I was going to ask any more questions. I'm really sorry. I love this stuff. Do you have any idea what that interest rate is?
I don't off the
If it's
top
4
of my
years ago,
head,
you're probably
yeah.
pretty happy with it right now.
Yeah. I don't know, we'd have to go back and look. We will find it though, we can find it.
Oh, all right.
It was, we did it today. I remember. All right, now we're ready for a handout?
Yeah, so handouts are coming around. I'll let them get to you and then we'll start walking through. Hold on to that one for just a sec. Yeah, I'll do these 2 first and then we'll get to the big one.
But we want the big one, Jack.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if you want the big one, but you're gonna get it. But so again, as they're coming around, that the first sheet, the single page, is just an update of what we talked about in the slideshow and where we are up to this point. So at this point, based on the presentations you've seen, you're looking at an increase to the budget of a little over $220,000. So that's where we are right now. You'll notice that transportation and the co and extracurriculars, those will be the next presentations that you guys will see. And then we're starting to pare it out. If you look to the column all the way over, we'll be looking at the contracts so you can see what the number is there, you know, around our contracts, as well as our energy costs. And then I referenced this before, and we'll have that number in next time you see this, the 1% for the Family Medical Leave Act that they passed that goes into effect in January 2025, which is basically 1% of your salaries is what they're telling us we need to budget in there. So we'll get that number in there also. So we're pretty close to starting to actually have all the numbers kind of come together. The other thing that I will do for the next meeting, as well as I will tag stuff to the specific articles, because you're going to see that for the first time, but I'll tag things to the specific articles as we go through. The second handout you got was the positions by buildings. We haven't done this in a long time, and it seemed like it made sense to do this. So what I did is just listed who's in the central office, across the schools, and then the transportation department on its own. As you can see, it's actually 4 pages long. It may not be as organized as it should be, but what we tried to do is capture all of the positions in every school. And then when you're looking at page 3, I tried to put the district level specialist.
Jay, we don't have this.
Oh, you don't have that one? Oh my God, that's my fault. I am so sorry, you guys. I'm talking away and they're right at my elbow. But let me let you guys get that before I say anything else. Yeah, so all the positions are there. The only thing that I will tell you guys that's not on there is adult ed. I do have Steve in the administrative or central office staff, but I didn't put his staff because it kind of fluctuates a little bit. So I didn't put that in there. But everything is there from your principals, office assistants, custodial staff, food service staff, and then your pre-K teachers, all that kind of stuff is in there. Your special ed is there, your interventionists for both literacy and math, all of your ed techs are included there as well. So when you're looking at this, follow it down the column, because there's no I just did columns. So don't try to match things up. They're a little bit funky there, just so that you guys know from there. So yeah, so that's, I wanted to give you that. It was asked by several board members to do that. You might want to process that and hang on to it, make sure you bring it back with you as we're going through budget discussions, because you may have some questions as you go through. So again, a lot of information to share with you that you're probably going to need a little time to process, but you know, you can come back to it. All right. Last packet's coming around, and this packet, as it's being passed around, is a first draft of the warrant articles, the local dollar calculations, the revenue page. So you should have 3 pages when you get it. And I'll depend on Mandy to help you with this part because there's a lot here. Oh. Yeah, it already came around. So page number 1 is the warrant article budget summary. So as you're looking at it, you can see what the, it starts with the fiscal year 22 and goes across to the proposed budget in 25. And remember, the difference column that you're going to see there is what's the difference between 24 and 25. And then we put the dollar amount, obviously, and then what that translates to as a percentage. So as you're looking at that, you can see kind of which article are up, and we can talk more about what's in those articles. That's why I will tag things in next week's or the week after. I will tag things to what article they belong in, just so that you can cross-reference everything as you go across. And of course, the one people are going to go to is that very bottom line that says grand total. If you follow it along and you look at what the proposed budget is going forward, you will see. So make sure when you look at that, 1 year prior adopted FY24, and then what we've actually got in the actual year expended up to date. But you want to look at that 21.7 million. Proposed for next year is 23.3 million, which is an increase of 1.6 million, which translates to about 7.5% increase based on what we've got right now without making any adjustments. So keep that in mind. There are a couple of adjustments that will fall in there. Like Sean mentioned, the liability insurance, that's a piece that we've got a max amount in right now. Healthcare has been, the max amount we were told was 15%. We've never had to pay 15%, so I asked Mandy to put it in at 12%, hoping it's going to be less than 12%. But we're a little worried by that, just so that you guys know. And then obviously the requests that you're seeing there. So before I go to the next page, so as you're looking at that number and kind of thinking about that number and what you may be able to support, what you think your towns will be able to support, that 7.5 is pretty close to what we had last year. So keep that in mind as you're looking at it. That's pretty close to what we had as a percentage of last year. It did pass, but again, that was a year ago, so times change, priorities may change. You know, we have to think about our townspeople and be smart and efficient with what we've got. So, so there's that page. Then the next page is the local dollar calculation page. And again, I'll ask Mandy to help me out if I misspeak at any point here. So what you see is a description of what you're looking at. You see what it means for the district, and then it's broken out by the 4 towns going forward there. So for example, you want to look at what, you know, each town in the end wants to know, okay, how much is Manchester going to have to pay? You know, what does that all mean? So they use and I'm going to talk more about this next week as well, but we thought or not next week, the week after. So property, it basically comes down to 50% property. What you're going to have to pay per town is 50% based on your property valuation, and 50% of it is based on the number of students in your town that are attending. So, so when you're looking at that, then the state is going to tell you what you're expected to put in for a mill rate. So when you're looking at the second row down, you'll notice that the expected contribution is 6.62 is the expected mill rate that towns are expected to charge for based on their valuation. And then we have to raise money to offset the difference, and that's based on your enrollments there going forward. So having said that, Mandy, what's the other important piece that I'm missing? I know I'm forgetting something right now. Did I pretty much get it all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The required local contribution is based on 8279. And so that has that's 6 pages of formulas, which we usually go over during one of the presentations. But it's based on a lot of different things, our special ed needs and number of staff and number of students. But that's what that second block of information is the 8,209,000 number. That is the required amount based on the ED 279. And then the local, the additional local is the couple blocks down where you see the 7,616,000. And that is how, that one is based on the 50% enrollment, 50% property valuation. And that's because that's how the RSU 38 decided that they wanted it done when we became members.
Again, a lot of information. You're probably going to want to process. I expect there's going to be a lot more questions the next time we meet, but we wanted to get you a first draft just so that you can start to process and put your questions together kind of going forward. Last page is your revenue areas. Again, first draft, looking at it. So when you're saying, well, how much are we getting from the state? Notice that at the very top line, that's how much money we're getting from the state in terms of the preliminary ED 279 using their formulas that Mandy just referenced. So we're actually getting an increase of pretty close to $300,000-ish. We're in the ED 279, we're getting more money from them. You can see this, the RSC, or the State Educational Service Center. You can see what we're getting there as well. We're getting a little bit more money there. The state pays for national teacher funding. We only have 2 teachers that qualify for national teacher funding. In the past, we've had 3. So just again, that's included in your revenues stream going forward there. And then I'm not going to read all of that to you. I'll let you guys kind of, again, process that. But the numbers at the bottom, notice, will match what's on your front page when it comes to the totals and how much we're going up. A lot of information.
There's a lot of information
And it's
here. It's
9:15 at night and people are looking at spreadsheets, and that's usually not good. That's usually not a good thing.
Is there anything you need from us on this tonight?
It would just be like if you guys are looking to start talking about what you want that number to be. My goal in my team directives was 2 to 3%. A percent basically translates to $233,000. So reducing the budget 1% means we've got to remove $233,000. So obviously, we're going to have a discussion about, is this number going to be the number we go with, or do we want to look at reducing costs? And if so, you guys kind of give me direction at this point, but you may not be ready to do that tonight because, again, this is your first look at this.
So what I would think is, I don't think anyone has a number tonight because we just got this 5 minutes ago. But I think we're not going to meet for another 2 weeks now because we don't meet next week. So I think you need to, just my opinion looking at this number initially, I don't want to say it's not acceptable, but it's a lot to swallow, I believe. Start ranking things in order of priority so we can be ready to take a look at that on what you and the team need. We've done that in the past. And, you know, bucket A, we would love to have, and this is why, but we might be able to live it out. Bucket B is, you know, or vice versa, whatever way you want to do it. Bucket A, we have to have. Bucket B, we could kind of live without. And bucket C, this is what's going to happen if you cut these things. I know that's worked, but this number, this is a huge number.
That's why
It'd be a hard sell.
I pulled off last year's, because I knew Sean was going to say that, so I pulled off last year's knowing that I will start putting that together for you guys, because I had a feeling now he's going to come out.
Because I think for anyone around this board to say, let's cut X thing, I don't think anyone has the knowledge to do that without sometimes we're doing the work every day. I'll stop there, and I see Tyler saying.
I mean, I'll agree it's a lot to take in. I think for me, a hard cap is 5%, which I understand is 500,000, but I think that's a hard cap for me on what I could vote for. I think we're still living in inflationary times, and I get that, but I think it's time to kind of look at where we are now, where we're going to be in 5 years, and make a budget that's kind of looking at that number versus kind of a here and now number.
Thanks, Tyler. Kristen?
So looking at all of the differences, just something that's jumping out to me is the transportation, just 22.23%. If we could just look a little further into that.
Yes,
maybe you have
and
some insight now.
she's gonna be presenting next week, so
Perfect.
that way you'll know
Thank you.
exactly what's going into that. and then you
Great,
can-
I didn't think we'd heard from them, but okay.
Eagle eyes, that's a good catch.
Anyone else have any statements, direction they'd like to give, something that would be helpful to them in your decision making? If not, email Jay, because it is gonna be a couple weeks, and she's gonna move quickly for those of you who haven't done it, so. Yep.
So please, I just want to echo what John just said. Reach out if you've got any questions to myself. I always do rely a lot on Mandy and administrators to help out with that, but certainly as you're looking at things, if you have questions, ideas, comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
So I'll be looking forward to see that, because to echo what Tyler said, I don't have a number, but it's easier to sell a number if you have some information to sell it.
That's good. We're gonna say.
Yep. So, all right, now we need a motion, because we do need to chat further.
Move we go into executive session to consider negotiate, oh wait, we haven't done citizen comments. for
Oh,
budget.
whoops, sorry, citizens comment for budget. Yeah, my apologies. I don't see anybody. Is anyone braving it online still? All right, now.
All right, now I will make a motion to go into executive session to consider negotiations between RSU 38 Board of Directors and the Marina Cook Area School Staff Association pursuant to 1 MRSA, subsection 405D.
Second.
Haven't been moved in second. We'll call for a vote.
All righty, Wendy,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
David G.
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Patricia, Rebecca,
Yep.
Sean,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kelsey's not back, David T.
Yes.
And Abigail.
Yes.
Thank you. So it's unanimous. We're in executive session.
All right, can we have a motion to adjourn? All right. Oh,
Oh, for God's sake, Diane.
happy birthday. All right. Move to adjourn. Done.
9:09.
9:09.